Hey everyone, welcome back to another deep dive. Today we're going to be talking about cornsnake morphs.
Ooh, fun.
Yeah, and specifically we're going to be focusing on the anerythristic cornsnake.
Anerythristic cornsnakes are fascinating.
Yeah, so you see those like really beautiful black and white pictures, and you're like, wow, that is stark, that is beautiful.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we're dealing with here. No red pigments, just pure grayscale.
Right, just black and white and shades of gray.
Exactly, and they are absolutely stunning.
They are.
And for whatever reason, they've become super popular with reptile enthusiasts.
For good reason.
Yeah, they're gorgeous.
They're beautiful snakes.
So today we're going to try to figure out, why.
Yeah, dive into it.
And where they came from and, how they're bred and all that good stuff.
Yeah, it really is remarkable how, this one little genetic tweak has created these just visually stunning snakes.
Yeah.
But then also, a whole wave of discussions about, reptile breeding and conservation.
Right, and, the ethics of it all.
Exactly.
And it all started with some really keen-eyed breeders back in, the late 20th century.
Yeah, those early breeders were pioneers.
Yeah.
They were just meticulously tracking these pairings and the traits that would show up in the offspring.
Right.
It was a real labor of love, and they essentially laid the groundwork for what we know about cornsnake genetics today.
Totally. And speaking of genetics, our source for this deep dive is a scientific paper, actually,
Cool.
called Anerythristic Cornsnake,
Okay.
a historical and genetic perspective.
Okay.
And it dives into all the nitty-gritty details.
We
So
love that.
let's start with the term itself.
Okay.
Anerythristic.
Anerythristic.
It sounds kind of intimidating.
It does sound a little intimidating, but it's very descriptive.
Okay.
It comes from the Greek words an, meaning without, and erythros, meaning red.
Okay.
So anerythristic literally translates to without red, which is exactly what these snakes are.
Yeah, makes sense.
No red pigment, just
Yeah.
a beautiful spectrum of grays, blacks, and whites.
Okay, so you've got a corn snake, no red pigment. How does that happen?
Yeah, so think of it like this. You know how some corn snakes have those vibrant reds and oranges?
Right.
That's all thanks to a pigment called erythrin.
Okay.
But in anerythristic corn snakes, there's a genetic mutation that basically switches off erythrin production. So you're left with only the blacks, grays, and whites produced by other pigments, mainly melanin.
So it's like someone took a color photo and converted it to black and white.
Exactly.
So the image is still there, but the absence of color creates a whole new look.
Right. And in this case, it creates some really striking snakes.
Yeah. And in this case, a really popular snake.
For sure.
Now, we've been talking about this single gene causing this lack of red pigment.
Right.
But I read that there are actually two types of anerythristic corn snakes.
You're right.
How does that work?
Yeah, so it's not just one size fits all when it comes to anerythrism.
Right.
There's type A, also called Anery A, which has that classic crisp black and white look. And then there's type B, sometimes called charcoal, which is a bit more subtle, almost like a ghost image with less contrast.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So one gene, two distinct looks. That's pretty crazy.
It is pretty amazing. Yeah.
But going back to those early breeders for a second, what was it like for them when they realized that they could actually control this trait and breed anerythristic corn snakes intentionally?
Yeah, it was a game changer.
Yeah.
It was like unlocking a secret code.
Yeah.
And imagine you're an artist and suddenly you have a brand new color to work with.
Yeah.
The possibilities just explode.
Okay.
That's what happened when they figured out that the anerythristic gene was recessive,
Okay.
which means that both parents need to carry the gene for an anerythristic offspring to be born.
So knowing this, they could strategically pair snakes to create these grayscale beauties.
Yeah, exactly. And that led to some pretty exciting times in the cornsnake breeding community.
I bet.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
That must have been a revolution.
It was huge. Yeah, it was a revolution.
And it didn't stop there.
No, it didn't stop there.
Breeders soon realized that they could combine the anerythristic gene with other cornsnake morphs to create even more variety.
Right. Why stop at just one color when you can mix them all up?
Wait, you're telling me we can get even more unique than a grayscale corn snake?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Tell me more.
Okay, so take the ghost corn snake, for example.
Okay.
This beauty combines the anerythristic gene with another gene called hypomelanistic,
Hypomelanistic.
which reduces black pigment.
Okay.
So the result is this pale, almost pastel-colored snake with reduced black and no red.
Okay, that sounds incredible.
It's a really stunning snake.
I can see why these morphs became so popular.
Yeah.
Are there any other mind-blowing combinations out there?
Oh, definitely.
Lay it on me.
There's the snow corn snake,
Okay.
which combines the anerythristic gene with the amelanistic gene.
Amelanistic?
Amelanistic means no melanin.
Oh.
No black pigment.
Wow.
So imagine a snake with no black and no red.
So it's just white.
It's almost entirely white with just the faintest patterns.
Wow, these combinations are just blowing my mind.
It's pretty wild.
So we've got this one gene leading to all these amazing variations.
One gene, so much possibility.
It's clear why the anerythristic trait kind of revolutionized cornsnake breeding.
It really did.
And I'm guessing it wasn't all smooth sailing.
Well,
didn't this focus on specific morphs raise some ethical concerns within, like, the breeding community?
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
While the creation of these stunning morphs is undeniably captivating, we're dealing with living creatures.
Right.
And when you start focusing so heavily on certain traits, it can lead to some unintended consequences.
Like what?
Well, one of the main concerns is the potential for narrowing the gene pool.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, when you're selectively breeding for a specific trait, you're essentially excluding other variations.
Okay.
And over time, this can lead to a lack of genetic diversity within the captive population.
And that's a problem because?
Because genetic diversity is crucial for the health and resilience of any species. A diverse gene pool helps protect against diseases and ensures that the population can adapt to changing environments.
Right.
So when you have a very narrow gene pool, you increase the risk of certain genetic conditions becoming more prevalent.
So it's like a balancing act.
Yeah,
right?
I think.
The desire to create these visually stunning snakes versus the responsibility of, like, ensuring their long-term health and well-being.
You got it.
Yeah.
It's a tough balance, but an important one.
For sure. And that's a debate that continues to this day.
Absolutely.
But even with those concerns, there's another side to this story that's worth exploring: the impact of captive breeding programs on conservation efforts.
It's true. That's a really good point.
Yeah. So let's take a quick break and come back to explore the connection between anerythristic corn snakes and the world of conservation in our next segment.
Sounds good. I'm excited to get into that.
All right. So we're back and ready to, like, dive into this whole world of conservation. I'm really curious to hear how these captive bred anerythristic corn snakes, these, like, sought after morphs, can actually help protect wild populations.
Yeah.
It seems a bit counterintuitive, doesn't it?
It might seem that way at first, but there's actually like a fascinating link between the two.
Okay.
So think about it.
Yeah.
When people can easily get beautiful captive bred snakes like anerythristic morphs,
Right.
the demand for wild-caught snakes decreases.
Oh, so it's like taking pressure off the wild populations by providing, like, a readily available alternative.
Exactly. And that's a huge win for conservation efforts.
Yeah.
Because wild corn snakes face a lot of threats.
Like what?
Habitat destruction, pollution,
Mhm.
even like the illegal pet trade.
Right.
So by offering a sustainable, ethical alternative through captive breeding,
Right.
we can help protect these snakes in their natural environment.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
But let's go back to the ethics of it all for a sec.
sure.
We talked about, like, the potential for narrowing the gene pool
Right.
when focusing on these specific morphs.
Yeah.
What are breeders doing to, like, address those concerns?
So responsible breeders are really stepping up to the plate.
Sure.
And they're prioritizing the health and well-being of their snakes above all else.
Okay, good.
And they're also becoming much more aware of the importance of maintaining genetic diversity within their breeding programs.
So how do they actually go about doing that?
Yeah, so it definitely requires careful planning and a deep understanding of genetics.
Right.
So breeders are meticulously tracking the lineage of their snakes,
Okay.
ensuring that they're not constantly pairing closely related individuals.
Right.
They're also introducing new bloodlines into their programs, bringing snakes from different breeders or even different regions,
Okay.
just to kind of increase that genetic variety.
So it sounds like they're treating it almost like a conservation program in itself
That's a great way to put it.
to preserve genetic diversity within the captive population.
Yeah, and this awareness is spreading throughout the community. There are more resources and educational materials available to breeders than ever before,
Okay.
really helping them make informed decisions about their breeding practices.
It's encouraging to hear that there's, like, so much effort going into responsible breeding.
Absolutely.
But let's, like, shift gears for a moment
Okay.
and go back to those early days of anerythristic corn snake discovery.
Yeah.
We talked about those, like, pioneering breeders.
Right.
But I'm curious, like, what role did the scientific community play in all this?
Well, so those early breeders were truly paving the way.
Yeah.
Often working independently, driven by pure passion and curiosity.
That's great.
They were the ones who first noticed the anerythristic trait.
Right.
And figured out its recessive nature.
Right.
And their meticulous record keeping really laid the foundation for scientists to come in and really unravel like the genetic mechanisms at play.
So it was like a collaboration of sorts.
Totally. Yeah.
With breeders providing the initial observations and scientists like delving into the genetic details.
Exactly. And that collaboration continues to this day.
Oh, wow.
Scientists are constantly learning more about the genes responsible for different morphs, including the anerythristic trait.
Cool.
And this deeper understanding helps breeders refine their practices and make even more informed decisions about their pairings.
It's fascinating how this interplay between like breeders and scientists has like shaped the whole world of cornsnake morphs.
It really is. It's a remarkable story.
It is. You know, when you look at like an anerythristic cornsnake,
Yeah.
you're not just seeing like a lack of red pigment.
You're seeing history.
You're seeing the culmination of like decades of careful observation, breeding, and scientific research.
It's amazing to think about.
It really is.
Yeah, it goes far beyond just aesthetics.
Totally.
It's about unraveling the mysteries of genetics.
Yeah.
Pushing the boundaries of what's possible, and ultimately learning to appreciate the incredible diversity of the natural world.
I think you've hit the nail on the head there. It's a reminder that even a seemingly simple trait can open up this whole world of knowledge and wonder.
It's true.
But before we get too philosophical, I think it's time to bring this deep dive home.
Okay.
Let's wrap things up in our next segment by exploring what the future holds for these amazing creatures and the passionate community dedicated to their care.
Sounds good. Let's do it.
We've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive: genetics, breeding, ethics, conservation.
It's a lot.
It really is. It's amazing how like one little gene can spark so much discussion.
It's true.
So as we kind of wrap things up, I'm wondering, where do we go from here? What does the future hold for anerythristic corn snakes and like the world of cornsnake morphs in general?
That's a great question. I think if the past is any indication, the future is going to be full of surprises.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the world of reptile breeding is constantly evolving. New morphs are being discovered all the time. Breeding techniques are getting more sophisticated.
You know what I find really fascinating is how this whole journey started with those early breeders.
Yeah.
You know, those passionate enthusiasts who were just like captivated by these grayscale snakes.
Right.
They were driven by curiosity, a love for these creatures,
Yeah.
and like a desire to understand the mysteries of inheritance.
Yeah. They were true pioneers.
Yeah, and it's a testament to the power of citizen science.
Absolutely.
Like, they weren't geneticists,
Right.
but they were making groundbreaking observations, meticulously documenting their breeding programs, and essentially laying the groundwork for the scientific understanding that we have today.
It's really incredible.
And it's amazing how that collaboration between breeders and scientists continues to like shape the field.
Yeah.
You know, breeders are applying the latest scientific knowledge to their practices, and scientists are gaining valuable insights from the observations and experiences of breeders. It's a win-win situation.
Totally. Yeah. It's a really cool synergy.
Yeah. And as our understanding of genetics deepens, I think we could expect to see even more incredible corn snake morphs in the future.
Oh, for sure.
Like maybe we'll see combinations that we can't even imagine right now.
Right. Who knows what's out there?
But as we venture into this uncharted territory, it's more important than ever to keep those ethical considerations at the forefront.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. The well-being of these snakes needs to be our top priority.
Right.
You know, responsible breeding practices, maintaining genetic diversity, ensuring that these animals are treated with the utmost care and respect.
Yeah.
Like those principles should guide every decision we make.
It's a delicate balance,
It is.
but one that the reptile breeding community seems to be embracing more and more.
Yeah, it seems like there's a growing awareness of the importance of ethical stewardship.
Which is good.
Which is great. Yeah, it's a really positive sign for the future. And ultimately, I think that's what this all comes down to, is like a deep appreciation for these incredible creatures.
Yeah.
And a commitment to ensuring their well-being, both in captivity and in the wild.
Well said.
You know, after this deep dive, I'm left with this like sense of awe.
The world of anerythristic corn snakes. It's not just about the absence of red pigment. It's a journey of discovery.
It's true.
It's a testament to human curiosity and passion, and it's a reminder of the intricate beauty and complexity of the natural world.
What a perfect way to sum it up.
And if you've been as captivated by this deep dive as we have,
Yeah.
I encourage you to keep exploring learn more about the different cornsnake morphs, connect with other enthusiasts, and maybe even consider supporting organizations working to protect these amazing creatures in their natural habitats.
Absolutely.
There's a whole world out there waiting to be discovered.
Yeah.
And who knows what incredible journeys await us in the future.
I can't wait to find out.